So Paramore put out This Is Why last week. I think a lot of people have listened to it in full, heard it a few times, have a little bit of a take to it.
Yes.
Lizzie, I know you have. You listened to it the day of release.
I listened to it the night of the release. What do you mean?
What are your initial thoughts of it? What are you thinking as far as This Is Why as a record?
It's more mature and it's post-punky, which everyone's kind of said, but it blends so many other elements of like past Paramore albums that you're gonna like it just because if you like all of Paramore's discography, this is what it's gonna be. And I've seen people already criticize, like, it doesn't sound like old Paramore. Okay, it's not going to. They're not Newfound Glory. They're anti-Newfound Glory. Probably, I'd assume, for obvious reasons. So they're not gonna be making the same exact music that they were making like 10, 15 years ago because there's no reason to. But overall, I actually really liked it. For me, at least, this is me uniquely, is that it takes me for some of the newer Paramore albums that came out after Riot. It took me a few years to warm up to them, specifically because I felt that I started to really get it and have it feel more applicable to me in my life the older I got. So when Self-Titled came out, when did Self-Titled? I have no idea what year it came out.
It was 2014, I believe, or around about.
Yeah. So I was in early college. I was an undergrad, like early, maybe 20, I think just 20 years old. And it didn't really fit for me. I didn't get it. It didn't resonate with me. Then when I think it was around like 25, I actually like listened to it for the first time in full since it was released. And I was like, oh my God, I get it now. Like it makes sense. It makes me feel like it's applicable to me. After Laughter was there, it was fun, it was poppy. I feel like that I always got that one. It wasn't really an issue. But I feel that also like during COVID that hit more too for me. I was like, oh, it's fun, it's cool. It's not my fave personally, but I'll go with it. There's good songs on here. It's not bad. It's just not something I personally listen to all the time. But now with this album, I feel like maybe I personally at 28, like this gets it, like for me. Like it hit immediately. And I think it could also be because this kind of is a COVID album. And I know we talked about the longevity of COVID albums, but this is one that's COVID, but also like a personal reflection on like Earth society and them as a band and as humans individually too. And they cover the same isolated feelings of COVID, but also still like bring it across the finish line to 2023, 2022 when they're more developing it. And it makes sense. So it's going to be one of the very, very few COVID albums that's longer lasting because it covers everything and it's two-sided. It's a two-sided coin. It's a double punch and it does what it needs to do. I think this could be a contender for like an album of the year because it's done so flawlessly, honestly.
Paramore is one of my favorite bands. Like, and you know, I've talked a lot about like All We Know Is Falling. It's just like that didn't hit me. Riot didn't hit me for a while, and then Brand New Eyes was like, oh, okay, this is one of my favorite bands of all time. I absolutely love this band. So the fact that like they keep doing something different on every record, there's different members on every record. I think it has been very clear that every album they create is a product of the people who work on that record with them. So whoever is in the band, whoever is part of the writing of that record comes out sounding like those people who worked on it. This record being the follow-up to After Laughter, having these three members as the people working on it, definitely like I was expecting a little bit more After Laughter too, which I'm fine that we didn't get that. After Laughter, we're going to talk about all the records. We're going to rank them. We're going to put them in a tier. And After Laughter for me is one of my favorites. So we'll get there. I do think the pop punk vibes, the block party vibes, I think having Taylor York doing more guitar on it,
Yes.
generally being showcasing of more guitar work on it is certainly part of how this album comes off as like, these are the pieces that go into that puzzle. Here's the guitar piece. Yeah, I think it's really creative. I think it's really clever. I think it stands out in their catalog and as a band that they are the peers in. There is the scene, there is the the When We Were Young of it all, where they were one of the co-headliners of that. And to release this record when they could do something that is very boilerplate, pop punk, emo, rock, whatever, they stay not doing that shit. And I respect that and I love that and appreciate it. I will also say that I think that of all of the lyricists who are doing that, Hayley Williams might be one of the best ones, might be one of the best lyricists in the genre. On this record specifically, I think she does so fucking good. This is going to be a record that I listen to a few times and like more over time. I think like not all the songs hit me right away. Their new video for Running Out of Time just hit today. It came out today, so we're going to listen to that in a minute as well and just react to the video because neither of us have seen it.
Yep.
I think that's one of my favorite songs on it beyond the singles. Big Man, Little Dignity has been in my head a bit, even though it's a bit of a longer song.
I know you usually like your 2-minute songs.
It's hard to sing along to a song that lasts for 5 minutes or so, you know, it just is. This is definitely a band that creates music as an art form. And I love that about Paramore, whereas they don't have to do that. They could write pop songs all day, every day. You know, they could do it. It's in them. They got that ability and they don't do it. And there's a reason they don't do it. And they don't have to lean on that nostalgia so much. They don't have to go back to their roots so much. Even though they can play a festival like When We Were Young and still not, you know, need to do all that shit. So, yeah, I don't know. I really like it. I'm a fan. It's hard to say that Paramore can do any wrong in my eyes. So I don't know. It's kind of just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I love Paramore and I mean, stay loving Paramore.
They're one of the very few bands who like, I will know most songs, if not all the songs off of their albums, and none of them ever miss.
Yep.
I feel like I can equate that to like Linkin Park as well.
Yep. Paramore and Linkin Park. I was drawing a correlation where there is none. Let's go ahead and let's check out the video. Neither Lizzie or I have watched this.
Yeah, this is actual pure reaction. That looks like a really comfy couch. I need to put that out
this
there.
This is the reaction really content you come here for.
Yeah, it looks real fucking cozy.
Takes. I think it was very interesting, their like 70s aesthetic on everything, because no one does that shit and no one knows what that should look like. But considering the fact that like every other band was doing a bunch of 80s aesthetics and then advertising that to an audience that did not grow up in the 80s, now we're doing 70s for an audience of people who definitely didn't grow up in the 70s.
Absolutely not.
And like I said, this is probably one of my favorites on the record, this song.
That's... Girl, me too. It's giving Florence and the Machine energy.
Yeah, it is. Guitar just goes so hard, man. It also just looks like a fashion ad.
Yeah, that's what it's giving me, something that like I never would expect from Paramore. Like in this like music video setup. Because it's like Alice in Wonderland obviously themed.
Yeah. But whenever you do like tableaus like this, where you just like set it up as a thing and everybody's just kind of still, it just ends up looking like a fashion ad.
Yeah. Like if you told me that this was sponsored, like this whole music video was sponsored by like a designer, I'd believe you.
One of my things about videos like this too is like it becomes more about the aesthetics of like how everybody is dressed rather than like the aesthetics of like the video itself. Okay, but I want to see them doing some cool stuff.
I mean, they are doing cool stuff in theory.
I like that performance part of it. More of that. Just generally, I like watching Hayley Williams perform. So just more of Hayley Williams performing. I was taking a little chair nap.
As we all do.
Just getting in a little chair nap.
Just disassociating for a bit.
Yeah. Again, I like the record. And
yeah.